Hi, this is Michael William Denny of the ThunderWizard.com YouTube channel, so welcome back. So listen, I want to share another experience that I had with you. And again, the point of sharing this is so that you can get a sense that there really is another dimension, multiple realities out there that we can tap into. You know, I've been doing a lot of weird things where I'm trying to debunk, what I consider to be garbage spirituality that really gets in the way of people's empowerment. There is a real spiritual shamanic reality, and a lot of the garbage that's out there is just that. It's pure garbage. It's not helpful to you, and anyway, it doesn't jive with my experience of true shamanic experiences. So I'm going to share with you one. I believe that I shared this in the book that I wrote called Awakening Sleipnir, and I was talking about what it was like for me coming to realize my shamanic ability, coming to, how do you stay sane when reality, you have all these other, experiences of reality. And so this has to do with Taoist spirit fighting. Now this is a spiritual practice that goes all the way back to who knows where. I mean, I've had different stories, but at the very least it goes back to powerful shamans in the south of China. And these shamans called themselves Mao Shan. Now, Mao Shan was originally a mountain, but it later became identified with what a lot of people call black magic, folk magic. And these particular Mao Shan fighters were also spirit fighters. They were exorcists. So these people, the legends of my teachers and my teachers' teachers, will talk about the kind of stuff they could do, was really phenomenal. Now, I had only learned what was called the spirit fighting, which was, on the external, it's a martial art. Not like Tai Chi where it's slow. I mean, it's really fast. It's these fast South Chinese close combat, Hakka style, lots of elbows and, plucking eyeballs out and all kinds of really nasty in-close fighting. But the actual forms themselves are like Tai Chi in that when you do them correctly, they're shamanic dances that open up other realms of existence and fill you with tremendous amounts of power. To this day, it's the most powerful practice that I know of. And it opens up into other realms of existence. But you have to have a teacher who knows how to teach you that part of it. Otherwise, you're just learning a Chinese martial art. Anyway, so I was learning the spirit fighting. And this was the first day that I went. And now, I was like I am now. I was, in terms of my body, I've been lifting a lot of weights recently. And I had been lifting a lot of weights back then. And, if you've never done any kind of, Chinese martial arts, some of them you don't do well when you're, big and bulky. So I walked in the door and there's this little Chinese guy, actually he's Japanese, a little Japanese guy, and there was a Native American guy, super tall, and they're doing the footwork and it looks like they're tap dancing, and I start laughing to myself. And this little guy comes over to me and he looks at me and he looks at my frame and all the muscle on me, and he laughs and he goes, ha, Lou Ferrigno doing Tao. He laughed really hard. He thought that was funny. And then I found out, why, because it was hard to get my elbows together and do all kinds of stuff I was supposed to do. Anyway, that first day, I'm doing the exercises that they're showing me. I decided I was going to give it 6 months because it didn't look like what they were doing was going to accomplish anything. It looked like a complete waste of time, especially for somebody with my build. And, I knew guys that knew how to fight. I knew, MMA guys, jiu-jitsu guys. I'd seen the real thing, and I didn't think these guys could stand up to it. But I figured, I was invited to this private thing that you only get to go through invitation, because I knew the Native American guy who was in it. He asked me to come in. And so I decided I would stick it out for 6 months to see if there was anything I could learn. So I go, at the end of the class, we all gather around, and the Sifu is standing there, and he's talking about dying and resurrecting, and these Taoist masters dying for 30 days, resurrecting themselves, and walking through walls, and levitating, and spirit fighting, and all this stuff. And at first I thought he was being metaphorical about, trying to teach some metaphor. And then I realized he's not being symbolic or metaphorical at all. He's being completely serious. And then I started thinking to myself, well, what have I gotten myself into? What a waste of time. Right? And so then he says, okay, so now we're going to do some practical applications. So I'm like, oh, great. I like this part. So he starts talking, and because I knew he's focusing on me, and he's talking about how there's no muscle involved in this. And that, it's really just pure energy, and that the only way to get it to work is if you just let go of all of the muscle and don't use any muscle, and just with thought, move and strike and all that kind of stuff. And so I'm like, okay, and I'm watching what's happening, and he gets this other guy in front of him, Rob, and he says, so I'm just going to do this, and he goes like this in the air, and then he taps Rob's chest, and you hear this loud thump, like somebody had hit him with a baseball bat, and you see Rob's body just kind of jerk, and you see him, well, that's kind of impressive, but I didn't really know what that was, and he showed some more, and it didn't really look real. It looked like Rob was sort of allowing him to, and it's like, I didn't know what to think. So he comes over to me, and he says, so now I'm just going to tap you with this energy. And he says, I'm using about, I don't know, he said some really small percentage, like I'm using like 5% power on you. And I'm like, okay. And he goes like this, and he just taps, and he's in the air, and then he barely taps my chest. And you hear this thud and this crack, and I felt what felt like a bomb going off inside of me. But more so than that, it felt like somebody had screamed at my soul. And it made me want to burst into tears. Not because of the physical pain. It was painful, but that's not what it was. I felt my spirit jump out of my body. I can take a punch. It wasn't that he hit me hard. I mean, he barely tapped me. But it was pure energy exploding inside of me. Now, I've got a good poker face because I had an older brother who used to pick on me when I was a little kid. So I learned as a kid, you don't show any fear. Because if you show fear, they hit you harder. So I put on my poker face, and even though inside I was rocked and shaken to the core, and my experience of reality had been completely torn apart. So he goes, well, maybe a little bit more. So he hits me again. This time harder. I mean, he barely moves. He barely moves at all, but same thing. Boom! And the thing just, wow, I couldn't believe the amount of energy that was going through me. And again, the same kind of thing. My spirit jumped out of my body. I wanted to cry like a baby. But I pulled it together, and I didn't let him see that I had been shocked or scared or in pain. And he goes, he cocked his head like, I wonder why he hasn't feeling. He goes, maybe a little bit harder. And as he raised his hand back, it took everything in me not to run out of there screaming, because I knew, as big and as strong as I was and as little as he was, there wasn't a damn thing I could do against him. If this guy wanted to, whatever he wanted to do, there was nothing I could do to stop him. Not a damn thing. And he came in a third time, and he hit me super hard, and then, there was no way for me to hold back, and you could see that, that I felt it. And he goes, oh, so now you see. And he left me alone. Now, what's interesting is I've learned about this art is that this is the kind of art that if you're not meant to do it, you won't do it. And I've seen most guys, especially big guys who, really get off on how big and muscly they are. You put this energy into them, and you'll never see them again. They take off. I mean, I've barely tapped guys with this. They turn around and run like little girls. And that's exactly what I want to do. But I had an interesting experience when that little guy walked away, that little Japanese guy walked away from me. I said to myself, if he can do it, I can do it. And I'm not leaving until I can do what he can do. And so I did. And I ended up, I stopped working out. In fact, I went from 185 pounds down to 145 pounds. I was like super skinny, and I was fast, and I did. I got really good. And then you get to a point you realize, how deadly do you need to be, and all that. And then I kind of came back to reality and allowed myself to, be with a woman and all kinds of stuff I wasn't allowing myself to do. But anyway, so that's where I got a lot of my power from, and that's where a lot of the exercises come from, was from that. So the mudras that I show you, many of them, the meditations, the breaths, a lot of it's the celestial qigong. If you ever get that, celestial qigong, that's where it comes from. It is one of the most powerful things you'll ever get your hands on. So that's why it's so important that if you're going to practice spirituality, practice shamanism, practice wizardry, that you have an experience. It's not all intellectual. You can't get it from books. And the majority of people that I've experienced are getting most of their stuff from books, and it's all in their head. That's why it's so important to do the meditations that I give you. So anyway, my friends, that's it. If you like the channel, go ahead and please support, or go ahead and scroll below and support the channel. Subscribe, like, comment, share any experiences you have, and that's it for now.